Kia ora, bros and girls. Welcome back to the channel. There's been a lot of talk in the community recently, and I think Seatin probably started it with his whole. If you haven't heard the news, he's basically just stepping back down from the alliance. He's getting a little bit burnt out. Um, Seatin, and along with a lot of the other content creators that I really admire and I really look up to and I really like aspire to be like, and respect a lot and their content, have come out and spoken about kind of the state of the game and the state of burnout and things that could be improved on, right? And so I think this video for me is a little bit, it's kind of sharing my views and my thoughts on the whole current situation. And I come from a software background as well, so I also understand a little bit of Kabam's side and the fact that, like, okay, it takes a lot of time to develop the stuff and test it and ensure that it is good and build the stuff that we need. But at the same time, there's definitely points made by everyone. Seatin, I Like Skills, Katie, Prof Hoff. There's a lot of stuff that Legacy. There's a lot of stuff that's just it's been coming for a while, and so I thought I'm gonna do something a little bit different to just complaining because I'm quite a positive guy, and what I kind of want to talk to is, and maybe Kabam can watch this and kind of listen, is let's go through the journey from when you start the game and then let's see where the disconnect begins, right? Because I remember when I first started this game, with my very first little, one-star Spider-Man, and my roster probably looked, I mean, it didn't even look like this stacked, but I had I think I started off with like maybe Black Panther and Spider-Man or Iron Man and Spider-Man or something, and um, and it was very exciting. I was like, oh, what is this really cool game? And we've got these really cool 3D animations, and I can play as my favorite superhero. And I think a lot of us are like superhero buffs. A lot of us maybe started off in the comics way back before the MCU was even a thing. I used to love and collect Spider-Man comics. A lot of people liked X-Men, and it was really cool that you come in here and play these characters that you've idolized and you've watched and you've like read their comics and stuff growing up, and you could play them and they had some cool animations and cool attacks and getting to learn the games and the mechanics and stuff. And so as a new player, you have a lot to look up to. You get your 1 stars and you can quickly work your way up through 2 stars and 3 stars and 4. And things start slowing down a little bit, but you're always getting that little bit of a progression. So if I'm a new gamer, I might start in story or I might start an event. And if we talk through Act One, you can kind of do that with 1 stars. And if you talk about Act Two, basically the first 4 acts kind of really correlate to Act to 1 stars to 4 stars, right? And so at 1 star, you could go in here, you could finish up Act 1, and then you can start getting your heroes up to 2 star and 3 star. And then that will help you in Act 2. And the rewards are even more 3 stars, more options to go into Act 3. And then the rewards are like, a 4 star and a half. That's more options and more characters that you can build to move towards Act 4. And then Act 4 is a little bit tougher. You don't quite get to 5 stars, but you get pretty deep and you start getting some of the resources you need. And you can still finish it with 4 stars. And then at Act 5 is when things start getting a little bit tricky and it starts jumping up. The game starts jumping up in difficulty. And now, by the time you've got here, by the time you've finished Act 4, realistically speaking, you only have like 4,000 or maybe 5,000, probably half a 5 star, right? And then by the time you go into Act 5 and you start trying to go to Uncollected, and Uncollected is quite a big difficulty, at this point in time, when you're Act 5, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, you're looking at your 4-star rank 4s and 4-star rank 5s. That's the kind of what you need to push through this. And so you're in that little gray zone, you're in that little bit of a challenge where you're kind of like working your roster up, your 4-star R3s to get to 4-star rank 4 and 4-star rank 5, and you're really pushing and you're really trying to get Uncollected because it's a big milestone and it's going to completely change your roster, right? But there's still a sense of progression in there, and at this point of time, the game's not really broken, and Act 5 is interesting and it's different and it's new and there's certain things that are challenging, but it's really not that bad, And then, you're working your way towards your first 5-star. It's very exciting. And when you finish Act 5, by the time you do this, you'll have your first 5-star, right? And at this time, obviously, you can jump into the event quests and build up a little bit. But let's say, so this is where I think this disconnect starts a little bit after Act 5. Because after you've completed Act 5, you're in this gray zone where, okay, you might have 1 or 2 5-stars, and you might be quarter way or halfway towards a 6, right? But you don't really have a massive 5-star roster just yet. And the only thing you could do about that is go into the event quests and do uncollected and do the arenas and all this kind of stuff. And obviously there's a lot of people that don't like arenas. And so, okay, there's these incursions that they've just added in. But my point being is, now at this point in time, you only have a handful maybe of 5-stars. And you want to go into Act 6, where the difficulty is a massive jump up, and you want to become a cavalier. And at this point, I actually kind of diverged from the story mode completely, and I started doing my uncollected. I started going 100%, and I started obviously going and building my roster through variant and stuff like that. And we're going to talk about every single mode and what I think about it in this video. But Act 6, to get to Cav, it was a little bit, with a small roster, it's very, very difficult, because there are some bosses that are quite niche. There's some paths that are quite specific. And if we don't talk about the 100%, if we just talk about completion, there are some bosses in there that you need specific counters for, like for example, 5.4 Ultron is an absolute nightmare if you don't have, a Nebula or a Medusa or someone that can counter robots. 6.1.5 Crossbones, this guy everyone complains about. It's really difficult if you don't have a high level Iceman, or if you don't have a Warlock, or if you don't have a heal blocker. So I guess that was kind of the start of this new era of Kabam. And it basically meant, with his entire, like his heavy region and stuff like that, it basically meant that if you didn't have Warlock or Sentinel or Morningstar or Iceman, you couldn't get past this boss, and you couldn't even get to Cavalier. You couldn't finish the rest of Act 6, right? So then you had to go off and you had to build your roster, and you have like a very niche fight. And the thing is, as you go through the rest of Act 6, there are more paths that are very niche and specific to a particular champion. And there are a lot of bosses that you only have really 1 or 2 counters. I remember there's a particular line in 6.1 where there's a particular fight with like an Aspect of War, Incinerate, Regen, Evade, Ultron, where basically your only real counter is Void. If you didn't have a Void, if you weren't lucky enough to pull a Void, then you're screwed. But what makes matters worse, and I think this is kind of where the community is coming at to Kabam, like this is where Seatin's coming at, and I like stuff. That 4-star restriction makes it really, really difficult, because you've invested all these resources, all this time, all these, if you're a pay-to-play player, all this money into ranking this roster and maxing out your 5-stars and stuff that were very useful to you to get to uncollected. And in Act 5, and now in Act 6, there's a gate. So it's like everybody starts fresh, and like whatever you had as 4-stars, if you build a good 4-star roster, you can't use it in Act 6. And to be fair, yeah, sure, Act 6 is a lot easier with 5-stars and 6-stars than it would have been with 4-stars. But at the point in time when you enter Act 6, and you only have a handful of champs, you have no way, you have kind of no hope for a while to even complete one round of it and move up. And then the rewards as well, are they really worth it? I mean, I'm not so sure. You finish the whole of Act 6 and there's some really insanely nasty bosses in there, and you get like, okay, the rank up gems are pretty nice, but you get one 6-star hero, one Nexus Crystal, and then obviously, I mean, there's some nightmare path on Act 6, but also when we're looking at the beta through Act 7, it just looks more the same. It just looks like it's more tougher content. horror content, really long lines, and really not all that fun. Like there's not, I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if some of you guys were around. I've been playing for about 3 years now, but there was that Thanos event, and there was that Thanos boss, and it was an uncollected, and it wasn't 7 path anymore. It was one single path, and you just had one fight. Well, actually, two fights, two different versions of Thanos. So the fight's broken up into 6 phases. The Infinity Thanos, and that fight was so interesting. That game design was so cool because it wasn't. You had to come in. It wasn't tedious. It wasn't repetitive. It was very challenging, and it was very cool. But you had to do different things, and you had to think differently, and you had to solve this problem, and then this problem, and then this problem, and you could build your roster around that fight and around different phases. And I think this is what people really enjoyed with the Grand Monster fight. This is what people really enjoyed with that Thanos fight. And so it was very, very difficult. But oh my God, when you finished it, the sense of satisfaction of like, oh wow, man, I broke the game. I finally did it. Was amazing. And watching like Seatin Beta Act 7, he was getting bored. I was getting bored. Alex Gills was like, he was riling up the troops and trying to keep everybody interested and stuff. And I love his energy. But I mean, the Act 7 itself, apart from the boss, which was fairly easy, Act 7 itself looked for the most part to be quite boring and very, very long. It didn't look like a fun game mode, right? So I'm going to say like the 4-star restriction, of course, that hurts a lot of people. But also, I think the core concept here that I'm trying to get at is all through the story you had progression. You had, you completed this, and then you had the resources that you needed to tackle the next piece of content. And I get that Kabam's trying to get us to diversify. And I get that Kabam's trying to get us to use a big roster with everyone. But kind of part of the fun of the game is that you could come in with your favorite superhero. And if you had enough skill, and if you played, the right way, you can kind of get through it with whatever hero you enjoyed, whatever villain you enjoyed, whatever characters you enjoyed. And I get that, okay, maybe not all heroes can do everything. I mean, in the Marvel universe, it was the same. Not every hero could take on every villain, and sometimes you had to like have a multiple group, everyone that was good at something, but not very specific niche fights for everyone. Not like, oh, you specifically need this character or this character, and if you don't have those two, you can't make it past this point in the game, right? Because that becomes less about fun, less about skill, less about enjoyment, and more about just buying or spending money to get the right champs so you can pass just that single point in the game. And it's very frustrating because that doesn't rely anything on luck. It just relies on RNG, which is what Prof Hoff said as well. Like, he's very lucky with his 6 stars, but if you just have a really terrible run of luck and you don't get the counters that you need, you're just stuck and you stagnate at this point in the game, right? So that's one of the game modes, and I think this is where players in the end game start getting a little bit tired, start getting a little bit burnt out. Now let's combine that with Alliance events. And I'm going to be honest, Alliance Quest had needed a rehaul for a long time, and when Kabam rehauled it recently and added new stuff to the Glory Store, I thought that was really, really cool. And when they lowered the prices, I thought that was really, really cool. And to be honest, I'm okay with Alliance Quest, right? It's a little bit tedious that it's 5 days in a row, but I'm okay with it. I think it helps you grow. It helps you with the fights. It helps you come up against different paths, and the Glory does help you build your roster because you kind of have a little bit of control over, oh, where am I going to allocate my resources? Do I need T1As to upgrade my 5 stars, or can I work on T5Bs and T2As so I can rank 5 some of my characters, or do I need the class crystals so I can get a particular class up to rank 4? It does give you that option. So I'm okay with the Alliance Quest game mode, but the Alliance War game mode is definitely terrible, right? And I don't, I mean, to be honest, if it was up to me personally, I would completely cut this game mode out, And it's not just because like Seatin's like is burnt out and stuff, but it's so repetitive. It's so tedious. You have to check in every couple of days. You're best often if you're in intermediate part of the game and you're building up your roster. You don't have a roster that can deal with the harder quests, with say uncollected and story mode, and be able to put in defense and have to deal with alliance quests. You're locking too many useful characters in those modes. And also, just people are sick of doing it day in, day out, day in, day out. You know, it feels like my analogy is like it feels a little bit like baseball or NBA, where there's games every single day, which is less fun than like if you had the playoffs, where in NFL it's like one game a week, and it's one big game a week that might be like prime time, 3 hours, and then that's it. That's it for the whole week. And so I think a mode like that would be cool, where you can either break it up, make it smaller and shorter, or make it less frequent. So maybe you have a season of, 1 month, and there's 8 wars, so you get like 2 a week. But they don't have to be 2 days. Like what's the point? Like you got to place over 24 hours. My one problem as well with Alliance Quest is that sometimes, particularly with map 6 and map 7, is some sections need you to have 10 active members that need to be awake at a particular time. And I've been in a lot of alliances, particularly because I'm down here from New Zealand, but where you have people from different parts of the world. So you have people from Australia and people from New Zealand, and people from Canada and people from Europe and people from America and people from Asia. And everyone is awake and asleep at different times. And to expect to have 10 people awake at the same time to finish section 3, it's a little bit difficult, right? So I'd much rather like a gated system in Alliance Quest, or where you need less path, so that at least part of your battle group, part of your alliance, even if they're asleep for a particular section, they don't need to log in and finish that portion. Or, give us some excess energy so we can, get into that bit a little bit quicker, because you only really have 16 hours, and those 16 hours are different depending on where your alliance is from, right? So I think that's a big problem with map 6 and map 7. And I know a lot of people, a lot of top players that go to retirement alliances and do map 3 and map 5 over map 6 just because of that timing issue, because it's a timing thing. You have to be active, you have to be on at a specific time, and for some of us that means like I might have to wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. just to make my movements, which is not really a sustainable way to live. Most of us, we've got jobs, and you might have kids, you might have sports, you might have exams. You can't just be up at all hours of the night playing the game. At the end of the day, it's a video game. It's meant to enjoy and have fun. And so the next game mode is incursions. And I think incursions are, when they first came out, I thought they're pretty cool, because I thought that you're going to get these rewards, which is like 6,000 red star shards every 4 or 5 days. And I thought, that's awesome. So this is like, instead of having to grind arena all day, every day, or for me, like twice a day, every single day, to get my red shards and blue shards, what I can do is I can back this up, and I can smash out a whole bunch of incursions, which require a little bit of skill, a little bit of challenge, a good roster, good fighting. It's interplay as well, because you're working with a buddy, you're working with a partner, and you could smash this out. And it might take 2-3 focused hours to get all the rewards in both tiers, Sector 7 and Sector 6. But then you've got your 6,000 shards, which is equivalent to probably doing all the arena milestones for the whole week, right? So I was okay with that. That was really cool, because it meant that you get rewarded a little bit for your skill, and you save a little bit of that time, which is, people have other stuff to do in their life. They don't want to be sitting there the whole time grinding arena, which I still have to do. But that's not fun for people. People just, it's what you need to do to get past this game, or you got to pay, right? So I think that aspect of it is not fun. I think if incursions had these sectors refreshing every 4 or 5 days, rather than the top rewards, not the incursion stones, the top rewards. I think that would be way better, because then you could get 3 5 stars within a month, which is more in line with what people need to do now to keep up with Act 6 and Act 7 coming. Because you don't just need any character that's a 5 star can go through Act 6. It's not like that. If it was like that, then I'd be okay with how rare the 5 stars are. But it's like you need specific characters. And to get a specific character that you need, you probably need to pull 20, 30 5 stars to get that specific character that's a counter to a specific boss that can only be countered to get past a particular game of the mode, a particular mode of the game, right? Sorry, that's kind of my spiel. So I was a big fan of incursions, but with that reward being once a month, not once every 5 days or once every week, it's not as fun. And to be honest, I agree with some of the other boys that I don't even do incursions, apart from for the 5 star shards. I don't do the normal 3,000. I don't really care. Like unless you can allow me to target a particular hero multiple times, and that's not going to refresh. Like if I need Aegon, I'll do incursions if I get multiple chances at the same crystal. So I can go for Aegon again. And if I miss, I can go for it again. And if I miss, I can go for him again. Until I get him. That's the only reason I would play and get those 3,000 shards, because I'd keep going for them. But if I get one shot at Aegon and I get Kamala Khan, and then the next time I do one shot at Doom and I get Superior Iron Man, and the next time I do one shot at Domino and I get Miles Morales, after a while it's going to get old. I'm not going to keep doing it, because I work my way up for a whole month just to get kind of trash. It's not really that cool. Now Arena, I still do, but I think they should probably increase and make T1As a little bit easier to get, to be honest. And I think they should probably up the number of 6-star shards that you get from the max tiers in the final 5-star Arena. But to be honest, right now I think they've got the balance okay with Arena if you are an Arena grinder. Event quests, I've been saying this for a long time, and I know it's in the works, but they really need a cav difficulty of the monthly quest. First of all, let's talk about heroic. Heroic, the rewards are okay if you're in heroic, right? But to the end game player, you're looking for 5 stars, you're looking for 6-star shards and rare materials. You're gonna look at this. You're not even gonna do heroic, because even if you explore it 100%, you're gonna get 1,000 red star shards. Come on, man. And then master, okay, you're gonna get 2,000. I mean, I only do like one run through to get the units, and then that's it. I don't even do heroic and master anymore. And even uncollected, you can finish uncollected. And uncollected, okay, the difficulty depending on the month can be a little bit difficult. But to be honest, right now a lot of people are breezing through uncollected, and if you watch a lot of the videos on my channels, I still go back and do them with 4-star rank 4s and 4-star rank 5s. Not because that's all I have. Because I can go in with Corvus Glaive, or I can go in with Aegon or Doctor Doom, who's maxed out at 5-star, and I could just smoke through them. I could auto through a lot of it. I could go in with Thing and finish it. And that's the point. The point is it's supposed to be the maximum difficulty and give you the best rewards on a monthly basis. And it's supposed to be challenging. You're supposed to come in and have a bit of fun and have a bit of a challenge for it. And if it's become so easy for our rosters, then they need that extra difficulty that's like an Act 6 equivalent of difficulty to keep the endgame guys challenged, to keep them excited, and also to get the rewards that scale with it, so that if when you were in that gray area between Act 5 and Act 6 and you couldn't get nowhere, you'd go and do uncollected so you could build your roster, right? Now, when you're in this state where you can easily finish uncollected, you can easily finish parts of Act 6, but there's certain paths that you can't do, and you can't get particular rewards. You need maybe like 6-star rank 2s and 6-star rank 3s for Act 7. There needs to be somewhere where you can transition from that for the event quests, right? You need to be able to pick up your reward somewhere, and I think Cavalier difficulty that needs to be giving us like, I'm talking like T5 class catalysts. They need to be giving out parts of T5Bs, if not full T5Bs. T2As. They need to be giving 6-star shards that are a lot more than this. You need to be able to build towards. I'm not talking like a 6-star every 4 months of quests. I'm talking like a 6-star almost every quest, right? The rewards need to be in line with what you put in. So there's definitely a lot of things to talk about, and the one fun thing I've found so far is variants, and not just because I've completed them, but I've actually found variants were really fun because they're very challenging. And I know some people are like, "Oh, variant 1 was complete BS," and to be honest, every variant works at a different aspect of the game. So variant 1 works about like diversity in roster and a lot of skill as well. It needed a lot of skill to get through, and variant 2 was about size, and variant 3 was about getting like very good in the tech class, and then variant 4 was again around diversity of roster, and it was a little bit shorter. And I like that because it's quite challenging, and it's stuff that you can still do with. I mean, apart from the gated ones like variant 4, where you had to use specific a star setting, or variant 1, you had to use specific classes of characters. You had to think a little bit differently outside the box, but for the most part, you could still do it with 4 stars if you had the right skill. You could do it with 3 stars. There's videos of like of Seatin going into variant 1 with a 3-star King Root on particular path and doing fantastic. I think when I did my initial run of variant 1, I think I used a 3-star Gambit to do the stun lock method, and that was really cool because you didn't need a really expensive roster. You just needed some of the right counters, a little bit of different thinking, and a little bit of skill. And I think that is really, really fun. And I think that's kind of the content that they need to focus on. More of that. More of like uncollected difficulty, but Cav. I think that's been coming for about a year now. Not even a few months. I keep talking about it, and every single month I'm like, oh, uncollected is too easy. It's too easy now. They need to make it into Cavalier. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts, and I know this video has probably been long, so I'm going to stop my rant right about here. But there are so many things that they can do better. I'd like to see Alliance War. The rewards either need to be in line, or I'd like to see it eradicated completely and come back in a completely different format, right? Because let's think about it, Kabam. If I'm spending all my time popping in for energy to finish my event quests, and then I've got to grind arena, and then after arena I've got to go and I've got to do incursions, and then after incursions I've got to go do my alliance quests move, and then after alliance quests move I've got to do alliance war moves. When am I supposed to work? When am I supposed to study? When am I supposed to go out to the beach and enjoy and have fun? And okay, sure, quit the game. But for most of us, we love our rosters. We love the problem solving. We love the skill aspect of the game. Let's make things fun. Let's make things tricky, skill based. Let's make it good rewards, and let's not make it suck up all of our time with stuff like Alliance War that's not really needed. With map 6, where you have to be up 24 hours a day basically if you want to do all the movements. This stuff, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. There's so many things that can be improved on. Hopefully you guys enjoy this, and tell us what you think. Get down below, write your thoughts, write your comments, and I guess I'll see you in the next one, boys and girls. Ka kite ano, bros and girls.